In this video, we're going to discuss Phase 2 of the GSA Schedule Consolidation Program. If you're new here, consider clicking on the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And thanks for watching. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending upon where you are. My name is Michael Price, and I'll be the presenter for today's broadcast. Very interesting topic that we're discussing today. And we're going to discuss Phase 2, which is occurring now. GSA has issued the mass mod, and we're going to actually look at screenshots of one of them today. This is a mandatory mod, and GSA expects everybody within 90 days to accept this. Now, I have some clients that still have mass mods from previous months that still haven't been accepted. So that's going to create a problem moving forward. That's the good news. Or the bad news, I should say. The good news is it's only updating your terms and conditions. So if you don't have a GSA contract, please feel free to sign off, continue watching, whatever is in your best interest. Anybody who now applies for a GSA contract will automatically have the new terms and conditions based on the new solicitation, which came out October 1st. And I believe sometime the end of November, beginning of December, they already had their first refresh. This is only updating your terms and conditions. Your contract number stays the same, your products, your services, nothing else changes. The only thing that will change is that the SINs, or special item numbers, we like to call them SINs because I've always believed that they are SINs, that we had to do it that way. And they've been changed to what they call large categories. We have large category, subcategory. What's going to change next in Phase 2 and Phase 3, I should say, is the SINs will all be gone and everything will be converted over to the new solicitation completely. It also will not migrate if you have open blanket purchase orders and agreements and IDIQs against a schedule. They'll work with you, your contracting officer, and you will work together to get all that migrated over. Hopefully you've got a lot of them, so it takes a lot of time. That means you're doing a lot of business, and that's fantastic. You will be required to create a new price list under Phase 3. As soon as that becomes available, we'll put together a broadcast for Phase 3. This is the part I like the best. How many of you absolutely hate Dun & Bradstreet? How many of you get phone calls every single day saying, we need your financials so that we can sell that information and make money, but we're not going to pay you anything for selling your information? Well, GSA got tired of that, and after 23 years, I believe it was, 24 possibly by now, they finally issued a new contract to Ernst & Young, and it's now called SAMMI. How appropriate. SAM Managed Identifier, and all of your DUNS numbers for all of your contracts will get migrated over. So that's not part of Phase 2, but that's coming before the end of the fiscal year of 2020, just so you know. Let's move on. This is what I saw when I logged in to accept the mass mod for one of my clients. And you'll notice that there are scroll bars on the right, and if you see the word continue at the bottom, that means you've reached the end of the page, obviously. Pretty simple. And if you have a global supply contract, which very interesting, one of my COs from a client actually, he thinks it was a sideways, was actually a promotion. He now runs the global supply contract section for GSA, and I've never seen the man happier. So the only people that can do this type of a mass mod is either the contract administrator for the company or an authorized negotiator. That would be me, as you're going to see on the near the end of the last slide. So this is what is required, and there's 5 bullet points there, and you'll see that it's very easy to do. The most important thing is one of you, either the contract administrator and or the authorized negotiator, got an email with a one-time PIN that only works for that mod. So remember, you're going to need that. And if you don't have that email, you're going to have to contact your ACO, Administrative Contract Officer, and have them resend the PIN to you so you can accept it. It is, believe it or not, hard for me to say, hard for me to accept. It's actually not that difficult to do this particular mass mod. As you'll see, you're going to have some options as we move forward. This is the overview. That's the new solicitation number. You'll notice the 1 at the end of the solicitation number. That means refresh 1. And they've also made it so that they can do 1,000 refreshes, which I hope I'm still alive when that happens. But the 24 contracts as we know it are now gone. If you have an application into GSA now for one of the 24 numbered contracts, and it was in before October 1st and it still hasn't been awarded, don't worry. As soon as it's awarded, you're going to end up getting switched over to this mass mod right away. So you're going to have to do it anyhow. If you notice a scroll bar on the right side of that screen, there's still some more down there, even though it says continue. If you hold multiple contracts, you need to sign them now. And phase 3 will consolidate all of those into one contract number. That's where the fun's going to begin under phase 3, because it's going to actually change your contract number. And it's not that big a deal because all the agencies, the buyers, Advantage, everyone else, eBuy, DOD, Mall, all of that will end up getting converted over. You do not have to worry about exceptions unless item 2 says they will not carry over. This is phase 2 still. You'll need to review the mass mod and take the same exceptions. You'll see that in one of the next slides coming up. And if anybody has any questions, which I believe we have one now. Will we receive a copy of the slides? Thank you for bringing that up, because, Helga, the biggest problem that we have is people sign up. We had hundreds of people sign up for this particular broadcast. What happens is, and I don't know how they do it, we will send a link to everybody who attended, not registered, attended. The problem is we get a lot of bounces because it's a bogus email address. So honestly and truly, folks, if you want the slides and you're serious about doing this, please do a legitimate, usable email address, not one that forwards and comes back, bounces, and says user doesn't exist. We don't mind sending them out. We don't mind working with you. And the standard phrase is no salesman will call. So don't have to worry about that. But if you gave us a legitimate email address, we'll pull the attendee list when we're finished, and we will send a link to where you can actually pull the slides. All right, moving on. Any other questions, please feel free to fire them off, and we'll do the best we can to get them answered right away. There's another question already, and I don't mind getting the questions right away. Jillian, thank you for your comments. We're all good here. Excellent. Okay. Moving on. In the upcoming slides, you're going to see the check boxes where you take exceptions or you took exceptions, and we'll move on from there. You do not need to complete your re-representations of acceptance, because you're doing that as we scroll down. You're going to see in the upcoming slides that I actually show you how I went through it completely, and I didn't change anything because this contract that we did this for was extremely simple. It's human resources, well, it's now called, I'm sorry, human capital. What's the significance of this? And as you can see, the scroll bar in that window goes way down under Mass Mod instructions. It is pretty straightforward. I have to admit, it is straightforward. Those of you that may need help, please feel free to contact us. At the end of the presentation, there's a slide. You can also go to our website. On the bottom, you'll see the contact information, or use the contact form, your choice. The modification will change the solicitation number. We know that because it's listed, where is it? It's up here somewhere. And it's on almost every page that we're looking at. So it will not change your items, pricing, or contract number or period of performance. That's the beauty of this particular mass mod, is that it doesn't change anything. The only change that came in was the prohibition on certain telecom equipment. And I haven't really looked into that yet because I don't have any clients that are playing in the telecom video surveillance services. I do have telecom. We have Sangoma as a client and a few other voice over IP folks, some resellers, and Sangoma being the largest manufacturer of telecom equipment for voice over IP. Mass mod instructions, it is mandatory. GSA requests that you accept it within 30 days. It's required within 90 days. So let's move on. E-Verify is still part of the employment eligibility as part of your contract. And most of the time it's not applicable. In this case, with this particular client, it was not applicable. So that's why it's checked as not applicable. Now is where the fun begins. If you notice the checkbox, the ones that are checked, these are what are current clauses or requests for exception. If you notice the right-hand side, it says take exception. We didn't take any exceptions at all because most of the time, if it's listed here and you see, for example, the first one that's checked says May 2011 Waste Reduction Program, that's really not negotiable. Most of what you've got here is not negotiable. And for those of you new to the Federal Acquisition Regulation, if you look at the clause number, if it says 52.223-10, that's the Federal Acquisition Regulation. If you look above or below, it says 552. The 5 in the front means it's GSA's version of the Federal Acquisition Regulation, and 9 times out of 10 it says alternate or modified or something. So if it's a 552, it's what's called a GSAR, GSA Acquisition Regulation, which expands on the Federal Acquisition Regulation. So for those of you new, hopefully that helps. Those of you that are old already knew that. Again, there's a long scroll bar on this page. These are all that are already checked, are things that we have already accepted as those clauses, which were part of the original solicitation before it was converted over. So pay close attention to this and look at the actual clause number if it's something that you think you might want to take exception to. But I can tell you right now, you're in for negotiations if you're going to try to take an exception. If it hasn't bothered you before, whether you're first year, second year, 18th year, 12th year, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just remember, if you take an exception, you're going to have to deal with GSA's legal. And that usually takes 1 to 3 months to get something like that resolved. I would suggest take them the way they are and move on. This is actually another version of the same thing, if you will. If you notice, there's nothing there because it's saying these are exceptions. And we didn't take any exceptions, so we didn't have any problem there. Let me take a quick question here. Alina, now I understand. You were talking about D&B. Dun & Bradstreet, like the credit bureaus, which I don't ever remember giving the credit bureau permission to sell my data without paying me a commission for using my data. Dun & Bradstreet does the same thing on the business side. They're always calling and saying, well, we'd like to, update your financials in your corporate profile and all this other stuff. And then somebody on the other side can do a business credit report and see everything about you, and they pay for that. So Dun & Bradstreet's making a killing. I don't know if Ernst & Young is going to do that. I doubt it, because that's not what they do. They're not in that particular reporting function. So hopefully that answers your question. Helga, you did not click many of the clauses. Don't you have to click on them? To my knowledge, when you take an exception, you have to click on the word take. We did not take any. If all those clauses that were for everybody, Helga, all those clauses that were already checked were the standard ones that we've already accepted. So we're not taking exception to something we've already accepted. And the other ones didn't apply because of that particular human capital, if you will. And they just didn't apply. Now, there might be a contract like a 70 or a 56, the old building supply and IT may have had all of them checked. I don't know. I'm sure that when you're dealing with human capital, Trade Agreements Act doesn't apply because you're not selling products. So hopefully that clears that up for you. Helga says, to my knowledge, you have to accept no matter what, but if you take an exception, you need to click yes, correct. You're 100% correct if it applies. And remember, this is strictly for the contract that you currently have, and they're mirroring and converting what you've already accepted over to the new terms and conditions, which are exactly the same. They may just have different internal numbers on them. So it's not that big of a deal right now. And if you find later on, say, oh, wait a minute, I should have taken an exception to this. That's something you can deal with your PCO, which is the procuring contracting officer, which is the one we deal with for all of our standard modifications. And there's only 5 modifications you can do: add, remove, increase, decrease, and admin. Everything else past that, as far as rapid access mods or mass mods, that all goes through the administrative contract officer, or what's called the ACO. Now, when you get this far in the mass mod, you can actually download a sample standard form 30, which is what you're going to get at the end. I have no idea what it's going to say, because it's going to have your information on it, and it won't have anything else other than what's actually usable. And it says if you didn't propose exceptions, then it's an accurate reflection of your attachment. Then we get into authorization. Now, I've blurred out the contract number of the existing client for obvious reasons. This is what it looks like before I filled it out. And if you're doing it yourself, your information would go in here. If I'm doing it for you, my information goes in there. And if you notice at the bottom, it says I certify, blah, blah, blah. I had to check authorize negotiator. So from that aspect, this is what you get next. And if you don't know who your ACO is, the word here is highlighted. That'll get you who your ACO is. This is what it looks like filled out. Very simple. And from that part, you click the green button to accept. Remember the PIN I told you about that you must have, because you're going to need it to get into this application, and you're going to need it to get out of the application. I had to enter it, and then I accepted the mod, and this is what I got. And you receive an email with the completed standard form 30 for your files, and everybody that's on your negotiator list will also get a copy of it for their files. We get them for all of ours. I also right away make sure I download an extra copy and send it to the client, so that way they have it, even though they're going to get it in the email. That pretty much is how you do the mass mod. Q&A, anybody, raise your hand, fire off a question. Any questions you have, let's spend some time. I allocated an hour for this, but I knew it wouldn't take an hour, so. All right, what have I got here? I got a whole bunch of questions. Well, I'm going to take a chance on your first name, Hyung Young. Hopefully I said that correctly, let me know. GSA contract feedback. Today, I would like to talk about the new business of Korea technology. trade and export, 3G, 4G, 5G. And I'm paraphrasing the question. South Korea is what we consider a favored nation, and we do have trade agreements acts that cover South Korea, obviously not the other one. Rita, is that the email that you used to sign up? If that is, then you'll automatically get them. As far as South Korea, yes, we can do business with South Korean companies. I remember years ago, and I'm trying to remember, like 89 or 90, I had Hyundai as a client, and they were manufacturing computers and monitors. And I've told this story many, many times in many webcasts when we talk about trade agreements. From that part, they were making their monitors in South Korea, but the computers were kind of back and forth between Fremont, California, their office there, and South Korea. We actually got them to move their manufacturing to one step out of Fremont. So it was actually a made in America computer, because they were using Intel motherboards and all that good stuff. The problem was you couldn't buy a monitor by itself, but the GSA acquisition regulation, the GSAR, allows for you to add a monitor, one monitor per CPU. Now, remember, we only had single CPUs in the late 80s. Now, dual quad CPUs, not quad core, quad CPUs, 4 CPUs, they would have been allowed to order 4 monitors. I don't know if they've changed that or not, because it really hasn't become an issue, because almost all manufacturing for monitors has moved over to Taiwan, which is approved. Hopefully that answers your question. And Rita, we talked about the slides. And can you still do a mod on the old contract before we accept a mass mod? Depending upon what you're trying to do, the short answer is I don't know, but as I'm thinking about it, I believe it's going to be simpler for you if the CO even accepts a mod under the old contract, because you've only got 30 to 90 days to accept the mass to do the conversion. It's probably going to be simpler for you to do the mod under the new contract, the new mass mod conversion, than it would be on the old one. And the nice part is that a lot of the contracts are getting reassigned, because it used to be if you had an IT contract, you had no choice. You had to go to Crystal City in Virginia. If you had services, you ended up going to Auburn, Washington. If you had video, you had to go to New York. Now you have no idea where your contract officer is going to be. I had a client for a hardware store, Group 51, under the old regime, and I ended up getting an email from a guy in New York that was handling janitorial supplies. He was the CO, and I said, what's going on? He says, we're all cross-trained now. So I'm going to retract my answer of I don't know, and I'm giving you the advice that do the mass mod and then do your mod. And if you want to discuss that, feel free to give me a call when we're finished here, and I'm happy to spend some time and try to look at things for you and see what we can do. Any other questions? Hopefully I was able to answer everything for everybody. And those of you that need to contact us, there's all the information you're going to need. You can also, right off the website at the bottom, you have all the information there, and on the bottom right, you can actually punch the button and my phone will ring. Well, not right now because it's on Do Not Disturb. Any other feedback? We're interested in what you think of the mass mod. And those of you that say, well, that's fine, but I'd rather have some help, we're happy to step in and help you. Feel free to use the contact us form or direct email, your choice. And I see a few emails coming in now, and I even see a voice message that already came in, so somebody's eager. And we're going to be doing some training videos, and as kind of a test before we put together our learning management system. We have the best one in the industry right now, and it really does a lot of good stuff. So keep an eye out for some of our training videos, and we will be doing a phase 3 as soon as I get the inside information on what's going on with it. And let me know what you think about the new contract, the new MAS. I was kind of skeptical in the beginning and didn't really know where it was going or how they were going to do it, but I have to give GSA kudos. They actually spent the time and listened to us when we gave them the feedback, and I may even include the Q&A that GSA went through. I have that document. It's, I think, like 10, 15 pages. It's in PDF, so may include that in the link to where you can download today's slides, and let me know what you think. And if there are no other questions, I know somebody will pop up just before I push the goodbye button. We're gonna end early, and we look forward to talking with you, seeing you, and helping you out if we can. So thanks, everybody, and be safe during this time of crisis, if you will. We're in Florida, so we're pretty much almost insulated. I know that Fort Lauderdale, they've pretty much shut down everything. We're on the West Coast in Sarasota County, so they've the beaches are still open and everybody's happy. So thank you very much for attending, and we'll be sending out the link to all the information here very shortly. Thanks, and everybody, please be safe. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you soon.